Since then, as you can see by the title, by the way, I'm talking about my experience as an Amazon DSP driver. And since then I've moved on to, more of what specifically I wanted to do as a career aviation, what I went to school for and such. But I wanted to make this video because I didn't really know what to expect with DSP. It was just a job that I took to, make some money while I was waiting for some more career stuff to happen. Maybe you're in a more down situation. But anyways, the reason why I wanted to make this video is this is not really, a lot of stuff we do on this, PWTB as a whole, or even the night game with Evan. Although I try to do a little bit more deep dives here. A lot of it is still opinion. This video is not going to be opinion at all. This is just going to be straight, um, you know, what to expect, like what happened to me. And not, I'm sure all different Amazon DSPs are a little like they do a like small things differently. So it's not like down to a T, but if you have no idea what to expect, sort of like I had no idea what to expect, then this is the video for you. But or if you're just curious to hear the experience, you see your package getting delivered and you're like, what goes on behind all that? Did they just throw them behind the wheel? Um, so I guess we'll just start at the beginning. I was looking for again just something to do in the meantime while I was waiting for some career stuff to pick up. So I was scrolling through Indeed. I was seeing what jobs are available, what's flexible, what's easy money. And if you've ever worked at a warehouse and for Amazon or any other Amazon thing, that's one of their big things is they're pretty flexible. They have all different types of shifts to fit your needs. And I worked in the warehouse for a couple summers too, so I was a little bit familiar with that. So I was searching for some stuff. I was looking for some new stuff too, but then I kept saying delivery driver, delivery driver, delivery driver. Um, but they would be different. Like they would be all these like logistics companies. Like, and for example, I'm in southeastern Wisconsin. I live in Kenosha. So it'd be a lot of like Sturtevant, Wisconsin, based companies. Like there'd be like Wolfgang Logistics. There'd be all these different types of companies. Um, that you can apply to. But once you read so you're like, oh, this is their own private company, I assume. Um, but then you read the description and Indeed, and it says like, well, this is an Amazon DSP provider. So, that had me wondering as someone who knows like nothing about this stuff, like, are these just, you know, do they drive the Amazon vans? Do they drive around like white vans or their own color vans? Like, what do they, what do they even drive around? Um, so I wasn't too familiar what to expect, like how closely related it is to Amazon. But these companies are super related to Amazon. You work out of a warehouse, that's where you get all your packages. And it's like contract work, it's third party work pretty much. Third party would probably be a better way to describe that. But essentially you're working under Amazon, you're driving Amazon trucks. But it's a DSP program where you could you know, like a small, I guess small business owner would be a way to call them, or like whoever runs the DSP just is in charge, but they're under the Amazon name. Um, so yeah, you drive around Amazon trucks. I wasn't sure about that. I was applying on Indeed, and I'm going through like I went through a couple of them. I applied, a couple days later, I get no response back, so I'm a little confused. And then there came the company that I eventually worked for, which I don't know I don't have a problem saying their name, but I don't know how big this video is gonna get. And say if for some miracle it blew up, I wouldn't want to like give them like a crazy amount of attention if I say something negative about them. And so I'm gonna keep the company name private. But anyways, the company I applied to, um, they had a website online. So I found the job listing on Indeed, but I'm like, all right, well, I've already been turned down like three times here. Let's just look up on Google and see if they have their own website. And turns out they did. They had a whole information section. And I'm not sure if every Amazon DSP will have them, but if they do, definitely apply on the company website. And this goes for any job really too. Indeed's good to look up the jobs, but I don't know how much they always read those. So I apply on the company website. This is like 10:30 in the morning, 10, and I hear back at by 2 p.m. So not even 4 hours, and they're saying when can you come in for an interview? So that's a little bit about that. Definitely company website I would go for. Um, so then the interview was walk-in style. They gave me a certain amount of hours during the day, a couple different days, like Thursday, Tuesday, Sunday, whatever, like the couple days throughout the week. So I go in one day. Um, it's pretty casual from what I see, and I think it's probably like that for all the DSPs. I still dressed up a little. I had my coat on because it was winter out. Some nice dress pants and some dress shoes. And let me just say, you definitely don't need to dress up that much. Just look presentable. Look like, because when you're on the job, anyways, you're going to want to wear athletic clothes, but you're trying to get the job. So you're not doing anything athletic the day you interview. So just look, throw on some khaki pants. But whatever looks presentable to you. Just look like you care. And that's all they're caring about. So, you know, I go into the walk-in interview. It's very basic. I think she asked like two, like the lady I was interviewing with asked maybe like two questions, like job, like why do you want this job? What would make you a good delivery driver? I think those were like really the only ones she asked. It was very straight through, and then it was basically onboarding stuff. They went into like my schedule, stuff like that. Would I be fine with? Um, so the walk-in was very easy. It's about what you would expect. And then eventually, I'm sure it's like this for most of them. It was like this when I worked in the warehouse too. You have to go take a drug test after that. But mine was not at an Amazon building. It was like at a drug testing center, which was a little annoying because I had to drive 40 minutes for that. But very easy. The drug test does not take that long. I forget. I don't think it was a urine drug test. I think it was a swab. Like I think it was a mouth swab. But or no, no, no. I take that back. It's the opposite of what I just said. It was a urine drug test. It's just takes it goes very quick. So then once all that's cleared, they get back to you and about your dates. They get back to you and say like okay, well, mine, for example, I think it was like a Friday, and they're like, "Can you come in on a Monday?" So they go pretty quick with this stuff, as long as your your background check or you bail your drug test. Unless if there's nothing crazy there, you're probably good to go. And even if there is some like iffy stuff, I'm sure they would probably work with you. They want as many workers as possible. But so I go in Monday, and that's when training starts, like on the job training. And for me, it was 2 days of on the job training. It was at a different Amazon facility than I ended up working at, which is a little interesting how they do that. The training's at a different one, and then uh, so I don't know why that was, but in the first day, it's boring. Let me just put it that way. Both days are pretty boring, but the instructors were nice and they did what they had to do. Uh, they, you know, you go sit in the classroom, you have to listen to videos. They do some stuff like they walk around the facility. They show you how, like when the Amazon vans were starting to load, they would show you like how they load their vans and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, pretty straightforward. The tests you would have to like. I'm not saying you'd be dumb to fail because there's some trick questions in there, but you'd have to not care at all because they give you three attempts, and after the first attempt, I think the instructor literally goes over the answers with you. I didn't fail any of the tests, but there were some trick questions on there. I'm not gonna lie, I probably got a couple wrong. But as long as you got 80% or above, I believe you were good to go there. And then this is one people probably have a question about is the driving test. Like, do you have to take a driving test? And I did. I did have to take a driving test. Um, it was uh it was pretty basic, but a little bit tough. I did have to parallel park at first, but it was just between cones. It was not between actual cars. And then you just drive around, you drive on a highway for a little bit, you drive in neighborhoods, pretty much like you would be doing on the job. So as long as you got the parallel park, and I even was taking a little bit on that, and then I had like 3 attempts, and she was cool, with me taking that, and eventually I got that fine. So I passed the driving test, I passed all the testing, and that was the first 2 days of training. And then once you finish training, that's when you go to your normal station. You talk with your managers for a little bit and they hand you a schedule. So mine, I think my training ended Tuesday. And then that Friday, I went in for my first day. And this is the part I had the biggest disagreement with, but I will just we won't go super into that, but that Friday I came in and you get at my company, you got one day. You got one day to be with another person. Um, and that person was very helpful, and I'm sure a lot of their instructors were very helpful. Um, Typical day is you go inside the station, everyone's together at your company, whatever company you work for. You get your bags, you get your phones, because you always see the Amazon driver with their phones. You get ready for the day, have some charge, make sure you have all your chargers and stuff like that. I had a problem with that one time where I didn't have a charger and someone had to come bring it for me. So you get all your essentials for the day. They just tell you whatever information you need. That takes quick. That takes like 5 minutes. Um, so then that's how you start your day. You go out to your van, a lot like the thumbnail. You'll probably seen this picture. You have to take, like some pictures of the van, a van inspection in the app. So basic stuff like that. And that's how you start your day. Um, and yeah, and then what you do next after all that is you take your van, which is in a parking lot. Mine was like, right across from the facility, and then you need to, you know, go back towards the facility, and they have a loading area. Mine was outside. I see some people have it inside. That looks pretty nice, but mine was outside, and you have all these crates, thankfully, I never had crazy amounts. Like usually you have like 2 or 3 crates that you have to load onto each van. I know some people who had like 5. They had busy days, but you take the crates, you load out the van, and then you leave for your route. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Um what gets a little tricky is just how they assign the routes. It's pretty much from what I heard, even the managers of the company, like they can alter it if they want to, but really it's just like AI assigned. Like I don't know if it's AI or Amazon or whatever they use, but it is technically assigned by the internet, just based on how good you do at a certain location. So for my training day, I did the driving, I did everything, but like my ride along was there to like explain everything. They sent me to a suburb. Like I said, I live in Southeast Wisconsin, so they sent me to Brookfield. Uh, for that day, and it went nice. Like they explain everything in the app you got to do. Some of you probably know if you order like a one-stop password, they explain what you got to do there. The customer's got to provide it. The customer has to provide it. They have to be in person. Sometimes I let them go through the phone. That's how it was a little lenient with that. Um but yeah, I mean, so, and they taught you like a bunch of other stuff, like what if a package was leaking, you got to take it back and stuff, basic stuff like that. Um, and then you have a certain amount of stops uh every day. It just depends on where you are. So like if you're in like a if you have a ton of apartments, like you may get less stops and you'd be like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool, less stops," but that might be a tougher day than like probably like 150 stops with a lot of apartments is going to be way worse than 190 stops, but it's all residential. And I did both. I did pretty much everything in my time. I did farmlands, I did Milwaukee, and I did like suburbs, and I did like everything. And I was only there 2 months. So it's amazing, sort of, you know, like all the areas you can go. And I guess I would say, yeah, the best areas are suburbs, residential, because it's easy. All the houses are right next to each other. Bang, bang, bang. I like some people don't like it because they have tons of long drives. I liked rural. I think it was relaxing. Yeah, you're driving a lot, but I thought that was relaxing. Was not a fan of the city. That was rough. They teach you to parallel park and stuff like that, but really there's no point. You just have to put on your hazards and go because they expect you to do all these stops. Uh, but and they want you to parallel park 100 times a day. I don't think so. You just put on your hazards and go. Um, so that's mostly like some of the favorite spots I wouldn't mind. And like businesses are sometimes easy. It just depends on the locations. Apartments can be a nightmare sometime. And I don't blame these people, but like are being like suspicious of leaving it in a mail room or whatnot. But some of their instructions were a little bit hard to tell. So if you live in an apartment, hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got just as right to get your package as everybody else, but make sure you're leaving some clear instructions. We'll just leave it at that. But so that'd be mostly day to day. But the problem I had with training is they taught me in a suburb, but then they switched me to a city the next day. My first day, I was like all alone in Milwaukee, and it sort of goes back to like their AI system. Probably they just randomly assigned me. He's ready to go, so we'll send him to Milwaukee. So I did not do well at all my first day. I got rescued, which essentially, so you must be saying, well, Evan, if I have 150 stops in an apartment, it's my first day. I'm never going to finish that. Well, number one, they don't assign you like crazy stops right away. They have these things called nursery routes where they're supposed to start you a little easy. I have questions if they did that for me, but they're supposed to start you a little easier. And then also, if you don't finish, they have what's called a rescue. So, like one of the really fast people who gets done, they'll come and take like 20 stops off of you. So it's not the end of the world. And if like you're just way, way behind, you can always take stuff back to the station. They're not going to be happy with you, but they're not going to like leave you out there at midnight delivering packages because that sort of reflects poorly on Amazon too. Um, but yeah, that's mainly the day in a life or the yeah, pretty much the day guide of how an Amazon DSP would go. Trying to think if I missed any other big points. Yeah, I would say, and obviously the people there, management makes or break. I was lucky. I had great management. They approved days off. They were really willing to work with you. I never once got yelled at for going slow, even though I probably a couple times I did. And I just had, oh, one other thing. You just have to, this is a job where you're very self-dependent and you have to develop your own habits. So, one person organizes another way, that's fine. But I have to organize my van this way, and you just develop a routine, when you're walking, if you want to go a little bit faster, make sure right when you're up to the house, you're ready to take that picture. And that's how I went from literally my first day, 125 stops, I had to get rescued, pretty low number, to, doing 190 stops on the regular and finishing pretty early, at the end. I didn't run, I didn't do any of that. So yeah, this has just been a video. If you're interested, if or if you're just interested in hearing how it works, or if you're interested in actually doing it, yeah, hope this video was helpful from someone who did it for 2 months.